I am Kylie Lundahl, and these are my associates, Naim Murez and Rennie Murez. This is volume 3 of a series of video cassettes on what we call Tensegrity, which is to us an art, the art of utilizing in a modern setting some magical passes discovered and developed by seers who lived in Mexico in ancient times. The performance of the magical passes was and still is the means to allow our consciousness to focus on the binding force that consolidates the different component energy fields of a human being into a concrete and definite unit. Modern man has found out, through the research of scientists, that there is a binding force that holds together the component elements of an atom. By the same token, the component elements of cells are held together by a similar force and are driven to combine themselves into tissues and organs. The seers who lived in Mexico in ancient times believed that human beings, taken as conglomerates of energy fields, are held together by some energy, some force, some power that cements those energy fields into one single energetic unit. Those seers taught from generation to generation up to the present day that enhanced awareness is the end result of canceling out our system of interpreting energy as sensory data. This system, which is taught to us from the moment we are born up to the time that we become experts in handling it, gives us, as a consequence, the coherent perception of the world we know. To cancel it out means that we can perceive energy directly as it flows in the universe, instead of interpreting it as sensory data. An outcome of seeing energy directly as it flows in the universe is the perception of a human being as a luminous sphere, that is to say, as a conglomerate of energy fields held together as a luminous ball. The interest of those seers of antiquity was the pragmatic utilization of whatever force is holding the luminous sphere together. They said that the sphere was not held together by wrappings or energetic bindings, but by some sort of vibration that rendered everything at once alive and in place. Their obsession to find out the nature of that vibratory force was tinted by their concreteness that made them want to hold and control it. Modern-day practitioners of the art of those seers of antiquity have found out that it is not possible to be concrete and utilitarian about that vibratory force. They have opted for the only rational thing that one can do, merely to become conscious of that force with no other purpose in sight except the elegance and well-being brought about by knowledge. The movements that we are going to present are an orderly sample of attempts made by seers of ancient times to catch a glimpse from a different angle of the force that binds us together. We have reinterpreted their maneuver. In basing ourselves on the modern-day taxonomy of the animal kingdom, we have concluded that those seers attempted to leave the phylum Chordata, to which human beings belong, and enter into the phylum Arthropoda.
Intent.
Intent. Intent. Intent. Intent.
Intent.
This is a basic magical pass which has been altered minimally for presentation. It is called opening oneself to intent because that is what is literally accomplished with this pass. The idea of seers is that intent is a perennial force that exists in the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism, and that this force obeys the solicitations of man if they are made with determination and persistence. The cognitive mood of those seers of ancient Mexico seems to have preceded the agricultural revolution and the advent of supplicants. To propitiate deities in order to seek help was not part of their cognitive system. For them, the only possible approach was to order intent, to tell it what to do.
Intent.
Their artistry, however, was to voice their orders with the appropriate force, but without any arrogance. The solicitation to intent, in this case, is to allow us to cross out of our phylum. This magical pass involves the motion of the upper trunk and the arms and the motion of breath. It symbolizes the incorporation of forces external to oneself by making an overt gesture of beckoning them and by intaking the response through one's breath. It begins with a movement of the left arm to the right shoulder and quick inhalation, filling the upper lungs with air to serve as a source of immediate energy. It is followed almost immediately by a gesture of the right arm that extends forward, a symbol of offering oneself to the surrounding forces. Then a sharp exhalation and a movement of the left arm, using the right arm as a launching pad to shoot one's energy out into infinity. Observe that the left shoulder must be moved forward as far out as possible, a movement that renders the upper trunk almost in profile. The left arm is retracted again, using the right arm as a runner while one takes a deep breath. The left hand returns to the right shoulder, and from there it extends forward in an arc, keeping the left shoulder as far out as possible. The right arm follows the left arm, drawing a similar arc, and this facet of the magical pass ends with the shoulders extended as far forward as possible and the back arched to compensate the forward movement of the shoulders. The palms are up and the thumbs are retracted, resting on the middle of the palms. Then the word intent is voiced.
Intent.
A very deep breath is taken as the arms are pulled sharply to the sides until the fingertips touch the rib cage. A deep exhalation is made, helped by turning the palms down and pushing downward with the thumbs in a natural position. The fingers are held together with the little finger separated from the rest.
Intent.
The seers of ancient Mexico believed that human beings have three energetic pouches. One is over the liver and gallbladder, another is over the pancreas and spleen, and the third one is over the kidneys and adrenals. These three pouches serve as reservoirs of energy. The pouch to the right over the liver they believe to be the center of quick, immediate action. The pouch to the left over the pancreas was considered the center of feeling. And the third, the one over the kidneys and adrenals, was thought to be the center of sustained and purposeful action. After beckoning intent, the next logical step, according to the seers of antiquity, was to fill the two frontal pouches of the human body as a conglomerate of energy fields. Hence the name of the second magical pass, pouring intent into two pouches of the body. Their consideration was that intent must precede anything that we do. In order to cross out of our phylum, we must first set up the intent to do so by pouring intent on the two pouches for feeling and immediate action. This pass begins by a tap on the floor with the ball of the left foot. The left leg is extended maximally to the front. The whole leg retracts to be parallel with the right leg. Then the heel is tapped sharply on the floor while the tip of the foot is extended fully upward. Two heel taps follow, one with the left foot combined with a hop and the other with the right. At the end of this movement, the tips of both feet are pulled up and back. The tips of the feet come down and the hands go sharply to the hips in order to brace the spine and neck for a sharp turn of only the head to the left. Both hands move sharply from being draped over the hips to cover the areas of the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and spleen. The left hand is pulled backward all the way, and it moves in a very broad circle from the extreme left to the extreme right, turns around the body, and then fits again over the pancreas spleen as if a knife is returned to its sheath. Then the right arm is pulled just like the left one, all the way backwards, and makes a sweep from the extreme right to the extreme left around the body. The hand again is placed over the liver gallbladder area as if another knife has been inserted in its sheath. The eyes are kept fixed on the left side, piercing into infinity. The eyes are moved to the front, again piercing infinity. The left arm is pulled backwards as if pulling an invisible knife, and another arc is drawn from the extreme left forward to the front, returning the knife to its sheath. The right arm repeats the same pattern. When the two invisible knives are inside their covers, the hands are dropped to the sides. Then the right leg is extended maximally to the front. It taps the ground with the ball of the foot, retracts back to be level with the left leg, taps the floor with the heel once, taps it again combined with a hop, and then a tap of the left heel. The hands are again draped over the hips to brace the neck and spine for a quick turn to the right. The next movement is to take a couple steps as if walking away. Seers believe that energy dispersed to the right side of the luminous egg is not of any value for purposes of traveling out of our phylum.
Intent. Intent.
Seers proceed with this pass, which is called breaking the alignment of the left and right bodies, guided by their certainty that the universe is composed of twin forces in action. They believe that the human body is actually two bodies put together into one, the right and the left, and what modern biologists call bilateral symmetry
Intent.
is not quite symmetrical. Seers say that the left body always lags behind the right one, and this anomaly, when the body is perceived as fields of energy, gives the impression that the left side of the luminous sphere is somehow opaque,
Intent.
fading. Its roundness doesn't seem complete. It seems to droop. To break the alignment purposefully gives a jolt of energy to the lagging left side. This maneuver, according to seers, is one of the most important of the magical passes because it prepares the two bodies for the tremendous jolt of going from one phylum to another, even though it is a momentary, fleeting experience. This pass begins with a quick movement of the left forearm, making an L shape in relation to the rest of the body, as the right hand shoots backwards to aid the force of the lifting arm. Then the left arm moves back with the hand open, as far back as the shoulder articulation will allow it, while the right forearm in a slap-like movement follows the left arm in order to balance it. All the weight of the body is transferred to the right leg. The left leg and the left arm move in front of the body, the leg by taking a dislocated step, and the arm by making a slap-like motion to the center of the body. This movement ends by the left foot pointing forward as if kicking at the same time that the hand also points forward with joined fingers, and the word intent is voiced.
Intent.
The same movements are executed with the right leg and the right arm.
Intent. 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 Intent.
We have now been told that seers of antiquity used these two passes, which are called breaking the alignment of the left and right bodies and realigning the left and right bodies, as two consecutive units. Since their idea was that human beings are composed of two different bodies that interact with each other in the most symbiotic of relationships, the final result of breaking the alignment of the left and right bodies and realigning them again is the creation of a new being. We were taught that this pass fixes or solidifies the new state of alignment of the left body, thereby permitting a successful performance of the crowning accomplishment of the seers of antiquity, traveling across the boundary of the phylum of human beings. This pass starts with a light kick of the right foot in front of the body, just for impulse, followed by a hop and a harder kick of the left foot. It's a case of shifting the balance from the left leg to the right leg in a quick succession. At the same time that the left leg is retrieved to its normal position, the left hand shoots in a straight up position and a deep inhalation is taken. The thumb holds the last two fingers curled to the palm, while the index and middle fingers remain extended upwards and opened in a V shape. The palm of the hand faces to the right. Still holding the breath, the right calf is lifted and the ankle comes to rest above the left knee, while the right hand, held in the same position as the left, makes an arc and comes to rest on the V shape made by the index and middle finger of the left hand. The palm of the right hand faces outward. The fingertips of the left hand are held at the level of the forehead. The left and right arms frame the face. At this point, the word intent is voiced.
Intent.
The same movements are repeated with the other side.
Intent. Intent. Intent.
The seers of ancient Mexico found out that in the luminous ball of energy, there is a point of even more intense luminosity, located behind the shoulder blades at an arm's distance. They knew that perception is assembled there, hence the name assemblage point. Seers see that billions of energy fields in the form of luminous filaments coming from the universe at large, every which way, converge on that point, creating the perception of the world we know. Seers believe that the assemblage point is indeed not only where perception is assembled, but where energy is interpreted. They do not believe that it is the mind of man that interprets energy, but that the assemblage point, in its capacity of interpreter, engages the totality of the human body to interpret energy. Seers also knew that the position of the assemblage point is common to all mankind, but that it is arbitrary and that that position can shift. When it shifts to another location, anywhere along the periphery or the interior of that luminous sphere, another set of billions of energy fields in the form of filaments converge on that new spot, forcing the assemblage point to assemble the perception and interpretation of a new world, immensely different than the world of daily affairs. The first movement of this pass is a forceful jump forward with the left foot. The hands are held with the index finger supported by the thumb and protruding out. The other 3 fingers are folded against the palm. A forceful inward stab of the 2 index fingers is made in front of the umbilical region and then in front of the chest, maintaining a minimum of 2 inches at all times between the index finger of each hand. The elbows are kept pointing to the ground. The body bends forward slightly. The whole foot is flat, and there is a stab 1 time behind the left thigh. Then there is a forceful step jump to the front with the right foot. The body stoops to stab 1 time behind the right thigh. The 2 feet are then aligned, and there is a stab behind the thighs with the legs held in a sitting position. From there, the left hand moves out to make a circle. The right arm does the same. The body is held erect. After completing the circle, the left hand shoots out to the front, pointing the index to the horizon at the chest level. The right index is placed instantly at the place where the deltoid muscle is inserted into the bones of the shoulder. The index finger of the left hand stabs forward forcefully 1 time. 2 other circles are drawn in front of the body, and the movement is repeated, ending with the right arm pointing outward and the left index pressing the right shoulder. Another stab forward is made with the right index finger. 2 more circles are drawn, 1 with each hand, beginning with the right arm, and the left index is thrust to the zenith. Then it stabs 1 time to the zenith and 1 time to the right. Another 2 circles are drawn, and the same movements are repeated with the right hand. Both hands come down and stab inward once in front of the solar plexus, and another time closer to the solar plexus, and a 3rd time almost touching it. Then there are 3 inward stabs to the back, each moving further away from the body, like a mirror image of the preceding stabs. From the back, the arms are brought over the head to the sides, each arm held at a 45-degree angle from the body. 2 more stabs follow, drawing a letter V ending close to the groin. The fingers are pointing down this time. The left leg is raised with a bent knee, and 1 stab is executed right in front of the knee, and another stab right behind it. The same movements are done with the right leg. 2 ascending circles are drawn until the arms are over the head. The back is rounded to permit the sliding of the assemblage point. The upper trunk moves to dislodge it all the way to the ground, where it is quickly picked up by the 2 index fingers, the hamstrings kept as tight as possible. After it is picked up, the body straightens, and the assemblage point is drawn upward to the solar plexus, where it is pushed in and secured with a vibratory movement of the index fingers. A deep inhalation is taken then with the hands rotating forward. And then an exhalation is made as the hands come down to the sides of the body. This magical pass, preparing to cross over, is very complex, and it pertains to calling our dispersed energy to come and rally around a new possibility, far-fetched as it may seem, but the more exciting, considering its impossibility, the possibility of entering into a new phylum. Seers of antiquity realized that the way in which we perceived the world was by interpreting the impulses of energy at large. This act of interpretation is taught to us from the moment we are born. It becomes so ingrained in us that we lose sight of the fact that it is an arbitrary system of interpretation. Those seers' idea was that if we had sufficient energy, we could not only cancel out our system of interpretation, but we might even be able to enter into other systems. We were taught that with this pass, it is possible to accumulate enough energy by summoning it from the body itself in order to break the energetic boundaries that separate what modern man considers to be the basic divisions of the animal kingdom. This pass begins with a slow and rhythmical contraction of the 5 fingers over the palms of both hands, while the palms are held upward to a count of 3. Then the hands are turned quickly downwards and they scratch to a count of 3. The body squats in 3 different degrees of acuteness until the hands are touching the ground in front of the body while the fingers scratch the surface, again to a count of 3. The body straightens, and then the thumb and the first 2 fingers are held like claws over the palm, and they are contracted rhythmically to the count of 3. The hands are turned over to face the ground, and the fingers are contracted again to a count of 3. Then the body stoops in 3 stages until the hands reach the ground again, and the 3 fingers move on the ground surface to a count of 3. Next, both hands in a 3-finger prong grab the left part of the left thigh above the knee, with the left hand below the right one. They gnaw at the muscles of the left thigh, the muscles of the waist, and the muscles of the ribs, until the hand reaches the union of the deltoid muscles and the left pectoral. Then they make a round half circle or crescent under the left breast, with the left hand leading until the right hand reaches the area below the left breast, at which time it changes to a point in front of the left hand and leads the motion of the 2 hands which gnaw at the pectoral muscles until the thumb of the left hand reaches the left axilla. The right hand keeps on moving, gnawing at the trapezius muscle over the left shoulder. Then the whole sequence of movements are repeated with the right side of the body. Then the hands grab the outside of the calves at the level of the ankles and gnaw the muscles to the upper part of the knees. They go across above the knees to the inner side of the calves. They gnaw their way back to the ankles. They come around the front of the ankles to the back of the calves and gnaw up the back of the calves to the thigh, then to the buttocks, and they end up on the area of the kidneys. The left hand moves then over the right shoulder to rest in a 3-pronged position and gnaw the muscles over the right shoulder blade. It goes back to the area of the left adrenals and kidneys, while the right hand draws another circle in front of the face to rest and gnaw on the area of the left shoulder blade. From there, the 2 hands clamp on the inner thigh above the knees and gnaw their way up to the genitals, over the bladder and intestines to end on the area of the navel. The fingers gnaw that area for 3 counts. Then the movement ends by opening the arms, palms facing the front, and bringing them to the sides of the body. The concept that prompted us to select this magical pass for presentation was expressed by the seers of antiquity when they declared that what binds the nerves of man is something they called the substance of mankind. We believe that they were referring to viruses because they spoke of that substance as being alive and capable of quick changes. Seers asserted that the virtue of the substance of mankind was that it changed with tremendous speed. Modern man has found out, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that the only constant truth about viruses is that they change with tremendous speed. Those seers of antiquity counted on that speed of mutation in order to elicit in themselves drastic behavioral changes. They related such changes to the introduction into their nervous systems of substances that belong to different types of life. They didn't do this through inoculation, but through intending. From this, we have been led to assume that they believed that the substance that composes the synapses of nerves might be made out of what modern man calls viruses. They claimed that all they needed was a tenuous insinuation of a different substance, as if intending it brings the advent of the substance itself, and that the resulting mutation in the entire body is only a matter of time. The seers of ancient Mexico sought avidly the advent of this mutation. They were driven by the certainty that any purposeful change whatsoever in what modern man would call the viral context of the body gives as a result a much sturdier, more intelligent, determined human being. Those seers of ancient Mexico were the living proof of that sturdiness. By performing the butterfly magical pass, modern seers, inheritors of the knowledge of those seers of antiquity, believe that for an instant a new viral possibility presents itself to the body, if not to change it, at least to allow the effect of noxious viruses to be contained, or the viruses themselves to be driven away. All the magical passes performed up to this one have been preparatory. They have served to buttress the body for crossing into another phylum. Seers of ancient Mexico believed that the total effect of this crossing was manifold. Each of those effects was considered more than a justification for its performance. The seers of antiquity never talked about this magical pass in terms of a total transformation. They described the results of this pass as the human capability of sending a beam of awareness into other forms of life. Their grand accomplishment was that that beam engaged the totality of their available awareness, so they were absolutely conscious of the perceptual conditions of other forms of life without actually becoming those other forms of life. Therefore, the overt reason for this magical pass is to allow human beings the possibility of a fleeting awareness, of which they may not necessarily be conscious, of the binding force that joins the butterfly together, the same force that acts on human beings. The first facet of this magical pass is to bring the arms, palms facing up, very gently to the front of the body, and then align the elbows with the rest of the body with a forceful tug. An inhalation is made by bringing the arms backwards, fully extended, and leaning the trunk forward. An exhalation follows as the hands turn forcefully and make the palms face each other while they are held behind the back in flight position. It must be pointed out that the adrenals are the pivoting point for the trunk to jut forward. The eyes are kept down, and then a very deep inhalation is taken as both arms come to the front like two wings. The eyes follow the movement and become fixed on the aperture between the fingers of the two extended hands. There is an exhalation then, while the hands return forcefully to the back of the body. This movement is done 3 times. The hands are then lifted very quickly so that the palms face the ground. Then the weight goes to the right leg, and the left leg is lifted with the knee bent and the toe pointing down. The left leg then moves in a pedal-like motion 3 times from the front to the back. Then the right leg does the same. The arms come forward with the palms facing the front as an exhalation is made. An inhalation follows as the arms extend backwards with the palms to the ground. The arms turn forcefully with the palms facing each other as the air is expelled from the lungs. Both arms bend at the elbow to make an L shape. The palms face back and the shoulders are kept lifted as an inhalation is taken. An exhalation follows as the hands come together, palms facing each other, held vertical to the ground. The arms draw half a circle and they are fully extended to the sides, fingers together and pointing upwards, index and middle fingers extended, the others contracted and held by the thumb over the palm. The arms rotate at the shoulders and draw a lateral circle and join in front of the face, arms fully extended. The movement is performed 3 times. 3 smaller circles are drawn in the same fashion after the trunk twists and the hands face the left side. The arms move swiftly to the right as the trunk turns 90 degrees, and 3 more circles are drawn in the same way. The arms are brought again to the front, and they swing to the left and to the right 3 times. The head rotates from front to back 3 times as the deltoid muscles press over the ears as far as they possibly can. Then the arms are brought down to the level of the liver and pancreas with 2 extended fingers pointing up. The 2 arms jut to the sides again, making an L shape, keeping the 2 fingers tight together. From there, they shoot straight back. All the contracted fingers are released. The trunk stoops over slightly with great pressure on the adrenals, and the arms are brought to the front over the head as both legs are bent at the knees and stand on the ball of the toes. This movement is performed 3 times. The hands are flipped over to have the palms face the ground, and all air is exhaled as the hands come, palms facing front, to rest on the sides of the body. This is the last magical pass of our series. It is called the female and male winged being. It has a similar structure to the butterfly. It refers to the male and female aspects of a species belonging to another phylum. It is said that it represents the internal structure and organization of an unnamed male and female winged being. This projection into this unknown being is another way of extending the webs of perception, this time to enter into unknown possibilities. The seer's idea was that the female and male winged being was a natural device to enter into the realm of the true unknown. If the viral context of every species is unique, to enter into what was abstractly called the female and male winged being is indeed the unknown at its most minute best. The movements of the female winged being are considered to be more direct and a source of a very powerful production of heat. The female winged being is structurally more sound than the male, but less ostentatious. The difference in structure is that the female winged being moors its sets of 4 delta wings on the areas of the liver, pancreas, and kidneys. The male version, on the other hand, attaches its wings to the sides of those areas. This is considered to be a more shallow attachment than the one of the female, which is directly on those organ areas. The movements of the male are more flamboyant and have deeper perceptual significance. The male winged being has eyes on its antennas and brings the view of the world around him onto his body itself. The seers of antiquity maintained that the creatures from what modern man calls the phylum Arthropoda, like the butterfly or the winged being, see the world through liquid eyes. That is to say, everything is seen as if through a container of pure crystalline gelatin. They affirmed that for such creatures, the world is made up of hues, and that each hue has a particular scent. This magical pass has been lost in obscurity for hundreds of years. As it was taught, it seems that it had been purposefully dismembered, and only single portions of it were shown as separate units. For example, the steps of the female and male winged being were taught as 2 separate units that seemed to be designed for tensing and relaxing the lower extremities. These 2 fractions of the pass were purported to massage and stimulate the ganglia around the genitals and hips. Likewise, the wing-growing movements were taught for stimulating the ganglia around the shoulder blades, and above all, for stimulating the liver and pancreas areas. Restoring the magical pass to its original form was the result of a long process of deliberation. The only sober alternative was to put it together for whatever it may be worth. The pass starts by raising the arms parallel to each other about 1.5 feet apart, palms facing the ground, as a deep inhalation is taken. The top of the body stoops forward, pivoting on the adrenal area. The inhalation continues as the heels of the 2 palms are moored on the areas of the liver and pancreas, and the body straightens to a fully erect position. From those 2 areas, the hands rotate to the hips as an exhalation is made. It must be noticed that the hands do not drape over the hips, but extend out laterally. The thumb is held across the palm. The hands slide to the kidneys, resting the heel of the palms that are facing one another square on the kidneys. From there, both arms shoot back in a straight line and draw a pair of delta wings with an inhalation that ends when the arms are extended laterally. The trunk is kept stooped down. The palms of the hands are facing back. Then they are turned to face the ground, and the 2 arms retrieved to land on the pancreas and liver areas with the tips of the fingers pointing forward. As the air is shifted from the lower part of the abdomen to the top of the lungs without inhaling anymore, the body straightens up. The 2 hands are returned to the sides of the hips as an exhalation is made. Next, the hands go back to the frontal position of the liver and pancreas, and another set of 2 delta wings is drawn by lifting the arms in a straight line above the head and down in a triangle to the liver and pancreas areas. An exhalation is made as the hands move to the sides of the hips. The next movement simulates the independent movement of each of the upper delta wings. The movement is performed 3 times. The hands, which are resting on the hips, do not drape over the hips, but are kept lifted up to create the adequate pressure on the ganglia of the axilla. Then a movement of the legs follows. It consists of shaking of the left foot at the level of the ankle and a quick side step that almost places the sole of the foot on the inside calf of the right leg. The exact movement is done with the right foot. Then the left palm is placed against the body on the area of the liver and gallbladder, and the right palm on the area of the pancreas and spleen. The arms are brought back to the sides of the body with a quick motion that leaves the 2 forearms striking out in front of the body as if they were not arms, but woody, insect-like limbs. There is a very quick vibratory movement of the forearms protruding back and forth very fast. This is followed by the forearms moving up and down at great speed, then laterally, and finally in a rotational movement of the wrist. During these 4 movements in this magical pass, the elbows and arms are kept tight to the body, as if they have been fused with it. The female part of this magical pass ends with an inhalation taken as the forearms are raised to the face. An exhalation follows as the arms are lowered all the way down and the trunk is stooped over. The male aspect of the wing being begins with a deep breath similar to the one that started the female form. The hands are moored on the liver-pancreas areas, and from there they rotate to the hips as an exhalation is made. From the hips, the hands move straight up above the head, palms facing each other 6 to 8 inches apart. Then they extend laterally to the full reach of the arms and down as far back as possible, drawing a pair of delta wings of gigantic size. The inhalation ends when the hands are placed on the hips. An exhalation is made then, and the left foot is drawn out to the left without turning the body. It taps the ground with the outer edge of the toes 3 times. The exact movement is executed with the right leg. Then the full weight of the body is placed on the right leg, which is bent at the knee, and the left foot is placed in front and again taps the ground 3 times with the outer edge of the toes. The trunk is kept straight, looking onward. The left foot is retrieved to the back, where it taps the ground 3 times with the tips of the toes. The knee of the left leg is kept as straight as it can be. The left foot is drawn back to the front and taps the ground 3 times. Pivoting on the ball of the left foot and the heel of the right one, the entire body is turned to face the opposite direction. In that position, the right foot is in front, and the exact same movements done with the left foot are done with the right. The body pivots again to face the original direction, and the left foot is drawn back to be parallel to the right. The left hand moves from the hip to the liver and gallbladder area, and the right hand moves to the pancreas and spleen. From this position, the arms shoot out 45 degrees in front of the body, with the index finger and the thumb of each hand making a seeing eye. The wrists are bent to allow the supposed eyes a stereoscopic view of the front. 3 big circles are drawn by dropping the arms to the sides as if the eyes were searching. Then the wrists are turned sharply to allow the eyes to look at each other, and 3 small circles are made in the opposite direction. The 2 eyes are brought together to the liver and pancreas areas. Then an inhalation is taken by raising the arms upward and around in a circle to be brought back to the liver and pancreas areas, over which the eyes are placed once again. The left arm is brought forcefully to the side and above the head with the eye facing forward, and the right arm is brought forcefully down in a straight line with the eye to be placed below the waist. In this position, the trunk turns and a full extension of the arms is obtained. The trunk turns slowly to the other side, and the right arm rises above the head and the left arm lowers to below the waist. In both positions, the eyes look at the arm that is behind the body. When the arms are brought back to the front, they teeter up and down 3 times before they regain their normal balance. The hands are then brought back to the liver and pancreas areas with the fingers pointing out, but still holding the seeing eyes which are looking upward to the ceiling. Then all the fingers are extended and the left and right arms shoot out, back and forth, up and down, laterally, and then they crisscross each other. Then the hands rotate at the wrists. The two hands are brought under the axilla and out while stooping the trunk with a deep inhalation. The hands are kept about 1.5 feet apart. The trunk and head move to the left as an exhalation is made. An inhalation is taken when they go back to the frontal position. An exhalation is made as the trunk and head move to the right. A deep inhalation follows as the head and trunk go to a normal position while the hands are retrieved to the area of the liver and pancreas. An exhalation accompanies the massaging of these two areas. The hands grab the liver and pancreas, so to speak, and a deep inhalation is taken. The air is expelled from the lungs as the hands are lowered to the sides of the body.
Intent. 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 Intent.